we will learn about basic of psychology, its introduction, why psychology is regarded as science, its nature, goal, concept, scope, development of psychology, methods of psychology, observational, experimental, questionnaire, perspective of psychology, psychoanalytic, and behavioristic. Let's move there. First of all, what is psychology? Psychology is the scientific study of mind and behavior. Psychologists use the scientific method to collect information or data to analyze, summarize, and interpret it. By this, data is converted either in qualitative or in quantitative data. So you can see that why it is considered as a science, because scientific methods are being used in which, and the science study is here. You can see this, the scientific study of mind and behavior. So mind comes in your biology, right? So biology comes in science. So in that case, it is a scientific study. And data is also collected, like in chemistry, biology, and physics. We collect data and interpret it and then represent it. Like the same way psychologists also do it. So now we come with the goals of psychology. There are 4 goals of psychology, and they are: describe. First, we describe thing every day with no conscious thoughts or effort, but the describing of psychology has a slightly different meaning than the describing we do in our day-to-day lives. Accurately describing a problem, an issue, or a behavior is the first goal of psychology. When you go to a counselor or a psychologist, you describe your problem, that you are having headache or insomnia, or you are unable to be happy, you are getting really nervous when you are on stage. So this is description of your issue, right? Description helps psychologists to distinguish between what type of behavior it is. Is it a normal behavior or is it an abnormal behavior? How can it be treated? So it helps psychologists to do so. Next comes explain. After the first goal, that is your describe, comes explain. After describing comes explaining as the goal of psychology. The goal of psychology explaining is to provide answer to the question that are based on human behavior or mental health, about the stimulus or a situation, and about the personality of an individual, how various factors affect the behavior, the personality, mental health, and so on. So after description comes explanation. You have described your problem, that you are having headache, you are having insomnia, you get nervous when you get around. So now comes the explanation, that why it happens. Is it normal? And if it is normal, how it is like normal in our body, right? So in this, you can see, is it a response to stimulus or it is something that is related to mental health? So here explanation is being given in this goal. After comes predict. Third goal is prediction. Predicting about an individual or an animal will respond to a given stimulus in the third goal of psychology. By looking at the past behavior and study on an individual, psychologists aim to predict how the behaviors may appear again in future, as well as whether other may exhibit the same behavior or not. So after explanation comes prediction. We have collected data, we have explained it, now we will predict it. That will this happen in future or not, and if it will happen, then what's the explanation for it? Then comes the change. Change. Psychology aims to change, influence, or control behavior to make positive, constructive, meaningful, and lasting change in people's life and society. Like you went to a psychologist, you described your problem, he explained everything to you, then you predicted it, and if something went wrong, you were prescribed medicines or therapy or counseling, and after that there is a complete change in your life. Now comes the scopes of psychology. So here the scope of psychology is there are two main branches of psychology. You just have to put this in your mind that first one is pure psychology and second one is applied psychology. Pure psychology is about the study, about the theories, about the practicals that you go through. Like in BA we are studying MA, in BA, sorry, not MA. In BA we are studying abnormal psychology. Then in MA also we will study abnormal psychology. So in this we will study different types of mental disorders like Alzheimer, then your schizophrenia and all the mental health, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and many other disorders. So this is your pure psychology in which you study only, right? Now comes the applied psychology. Applied psychology is something that what you have studied now you will apply. We have studied here abnormal psychology. So abnormal psychology is directly to the clinical psychology. Hope so you got that, okay? Then comes the development of psychology. You should remember that in 19th century, it is a peak point of psychology, where psychology began. In the 19th century, it began to explore itself. The psychology was the one subject that was not being, you can say, was seen as a good thing. If someone is suffering from mental disorder, it was being considered as you can say superstitious, that it's a ghost or something, or they have turned mad and something like that. But in 19th century, it has marked the state of psychology as a scientific enterprise. Here it will explore the world and the world will explore psychology. The 19th century states that. And you can say there were who is called father of psychology. Like we are having father of sociology, father of biology, father of zoology. So we are also having father of psychology. So who is father of psychology? William Wundt. Why? Because he is the first person who has set up a laboratory in Germany. So it was called Lippis. So for that only he is considered as father of psychology. So you should also go through the development of psychology. First, you should remember the names first. That is structuralism, functionalism, behaviorism, Gestalt and psychoanalysis. You will come across it later, but right now you just have to remember these five names that are important in development of psychology. Let's come to the next thing. That is our methods of psychology. So for methods of psychology, I will say there are many methods actually, but I'm taking only three because these three methods are basic methods. First one is observational, second one is experimental, third one is questionnaire. So here you can see the observation. What is the observational method? Observation method is watching, listening, recording behavior appearing in the particular setting. You can see the definition over here. Observation से ही पता लग रहा है that what is observation. General objective of observation method is to describe the behavior. It is not concerned with giving explanation or reason. यहाँ पे goal of psychology में सिर्फ और सिर्फ आपको डिस्क्राइब करना है और किसी गोल को नहीं लेना है. हम सिर्फ डिस्क्राइब कर रहे हैं. Okay? Then comes the types of observation. There is naturalistic, controlled, structured, unstructured, participant and non-participant. Naturalistic like you are sitting in a forest or a grassland and you are just watching everything and you're noting down. So that is naturalistic. Second one is controlled. Controlled is like you put 5 children in front of you and they are having toy and you are having a proper surveillance over them. So that is controlled. If someone starts quarreling, you will able to control them because you are having power. So that is controlled. Then comes structured and unstructured. So structured is like, again, that controlled is like structured only. That for example, let's take an example that we say like in shooting, it is structured. A director observes everything and then say hero and heroine to play their parts, right? So wherever he feels like no, it's not appropriate, he said cut. And then again they all set up that the atmosphere and everything, and they will start the scene. So that is structured. Unstructured is like any mob lynching, you can say. If you are observing something and it is an unstructured behavior like mob lynching, so you will note down everything that you are seeing right now. Okay, that's been happening. Then comes participant and non-participant. Participant is like you are the participant of observation group. Like you walks in a classroom and you sit with the children and won't say anything. You will just observe their behavior, the atmosphere of the class, that how was it before the teacher entered and how was it when teacher entered in the class, how was the behavior of the children. Okay. Then comes the non-participant. You will tell children that I am observing you. In non-participant, you will tell children that you are observing them. So this is that you told them that I'm observing you, so they will change their behavior. Obviously, if I say you say something to you that I'm observing you now, so the actual response that you will give me will be changed, right? If you are rude, you will talk very politely with me, and if you are very polite, then you will try to be very sweet with me. So like this, participant and non-participant behaviors change. Now comes the advantages. Can be easily replicated by other researchers by using the same observation schedule. Observer can have control over variable, and disadvantages like they will just not behave as they should behave, right? Now comes experimental method. First of all, what is experimental method? It is the strict sense of experimental research, what is called a true experiment. This is an experiment where the researcher manipulates one variable and randomize the rest of the variable. It has a control group. The subject have been randomly assigned between the group, and the researcher only tests one effect at a time. Now comes the advantages and disadvantages of experimental method. Advantages: ability to manipulate independent variable. Disadvantage: artificiality of labs, non-representative samples. Then expensive it is, focus on present and immediate future, ethical limitation. Then advantages: use of control group, control of extraneous variables, replication possible, field experiment possible. Then you must be wondering what is independent variable and dependent variable. You can see the diagram over here. So you can say this fertilizer is independent variable. Whatever fertilizer you will use on plant, it will affect the plant, not the fertilizer, right? Fertilizer will affect the plant growth, the leaves, the fruits and etc. things. But nothing will happen with fertilizer. Fertilizer is doing its job and it's totally independent. But who is dependent? This plant is dependent. So this is dependent variable and this is independent variable. Hope so you got it. Let's move ahead. Now comes the questionnaire method. So what is questionnaire method? Questionnaire, you can just understand what question means. Asking question and for the response you're getting the answers. That is only questionnaire method. Questionnaire is mean the eliciting the beliefs, feeling, experiences, perception or attitude of some sample of individual. As the data collecting an instrument, it could be structured or unstructured. I've told you what is structured and unstructured. Then comes merit. First, it is very economical. It is time-saving process. It covers the research in wide area. It's very suitable for a special type of responses. It's most reliable in special cases. What are the demerits? Through this, we get only limited responses, lack of personal contact, greater possibility of wrong answers, chances of receiving incomplete responses, and more. Sometimes answer may be illegible, it may be useless in many problems. So you can understand by this that what is questionnaire. Now comes the perspective of psychology. So first one is psychoanalytical perspective. It was given by Sigmund Freud. He is the most popular, you can say, psychologist in the world of psychology. Every psychology student know about this name, that knows, say, who is Sigmund Freud. He is father of psychoanalytical perspective. So he introduced three terms, that is id, ego and superego, you can see over here, and came up with a model called iceberg model. So this theory, or I can say this perspective, only deals with the subconscious mind. First is your conscious mind, that you are being conscious, you are rational, you know your beliefs and everything. But what about subconscious? So this is the proper study of subconscious mind. He came up with a model called iceberg model. You can see it over here, that the tip of the iceberg is your conscious, that you are conscious. Then comes the preconscious, that is your ego. Then comes superego, and then comes unconscious, that is it. You don't need to get into it, just understand the basic of it. Then comes behavioristic perspective. First of all, what is behaviorism? Behaviorism was, you can say, came between 1920 to 1950s. Its psychology should be seen as science, behaviorism says. Theories need to be supported by empirical data obtained through careful and controlled observation and measurement of behavior. Behaviorism is primarily concerned with observable behavior as opposed to the internal events like thinking and emotions. Observable behavior can be objectively and scientifically measured. Then the psychologists who are having this approach was B.F. Skinner, John B. Watson, Ivan Pavlov. Then advantages of it is observable, measurable, scientific, many experiments to support founding. Then disadvantages, take away free will and ignores biology. Next come the schools of psychology. There are five schools of psychology. First is cognitive, that is your mental process. This branch, or I can say this school, first of all, let's understand the word school here. It doesn't mean that psychology is having different school that you can study. No, it means that every psychologist from his behalf had introduced a new thing in the psychology. So everything that is in the mind or in our body that can be observed is being divided into five things. If you want to observe thinking process, then you go with this. If you want to focus on something else, unconscious mind, you go this, like that. So like that, this only the cognitive psychology is the study of mental process. Humanistic psychology is focused on the individual free will. Then comes psychoanalysis, psychoanalytic approach, Sigmund Freud.